Mira enjoyed quiet Sundays more than anything. While most people stayed home to rest, she liked exploring small weekend markets outside town. These places had the smell of old wood, sun-warmed metal, and stories waiting to be discovered. She had no plan for that day. She just wanted fresh air and a peaceful walk. Yet life often changed when she least expected it, and this Sunday held something that would stay with her forever. The market she visited was at the end of a long road, surrounded by dry fields and a few trees that moved gently in the wind. The stalls were simple and made of cloth stretched over wooden poles. Some vendors sold old tools, some sold used books, and others displayed boxes filled with random items. Everything felt slow and calm. Mira walked slowly between the stalls, greeting people, smiling at children, and enjoying the warm sunlight. After almost an hour of wandering, she reached the far corner of the market where only a few stalls stood. At first she thought it was empty, but then she saw a small faded tent with a single vehicle parked under it. The sight made her stop instantly. It was an old sky blue 1965 Ford Mustang. Even though the paint had lost its shine and the chrome looked tired, the car had a presence that pulled her closer. It stood like an old memory that refused to disappear. Mira took a few slow steps toward it, admiring the shape of the body, the curves around the headlights, and the wide front grille. She had never owned a classic car, but she loved old things with character. This Mustang felt like a story waiting to be told. Beside the car stood an older man. His name was Tom. His hair was gray, his hands were rough from years of work, and his simple apron showed he repaired tools or small machines at the market. His eyes held kindness but also a softness that came from holding onto memories for too long. Mira greeted him with a smile. Tom nodded and returned the greeting. She pointed at the Mustang and asked if it was his. Tom looked at the car for a moment before answering. He said he had owned it for many years. He did not say it proudly or sadly. He said it in a way that suggested the car was more than just metal to him. Mira asked carefully if the car was for sale. She expected a high price, because classic Mustangs, even in poor condition, were usually expensive. Tom answered quietly that yes, he was selling it. When she asked for the price, he paused and said $600. Mira thought she heard him wrong. $600 felt unbelievably low for a classic car. She asked again if he was sure. Tom nodded without hesitation. His expression did not show urgency or need. Instead, it showed acceptance, as if he had made peace with the decision long before she arrived. Mira looked at the car again. The seats were worn, the windows foggy, and the tires needed work, but the structure looked solid. She imagined how it would look after some cleaning and repairs. She felt excitement rising inside her. Finding a 1965 Mustang in any condition was rare, and finding one at this price felt impossible. Still, she hesitated. She did not want to take advantage of someone. She asked Tom if he was selling it because he needed money. Tom gently shook his head. He said the car had been with him for many years, but he felt it was time for someone else to take care of it. He said he wanted it to belong to a person who would respect it and not let it sit unused. There was something sincere in his voice. It was not the voice of someone trying to sell quickly. It was the voice of someone letting go of something precious in a quiet, respectful way. Mira felt a strange connection to the moment. She knew she wanted the car, but more than that, she wanted to honor the trust Tom was showing. After a few minutes of thought, she agreed to buy it. Tom nodded gently, almost as if he expected her answer from the beginning. He walked to a small metal box near his tools and took out the car keys. His hands held them carefully, and when he passed them to her, it felt like a small ceremony. Mira thanked him sincerely. She promised she would restore the car and take good care of it. Tom smiled softly. The smile was warm but carried a hint of something she could not understand. It felt like relief mixed with sadness, like someone watching an old friend leave. Before she sat inside the Mustang for the first time, she looked at Tom again. He stood beside the tent, watching her with calm eyes. She asked if he wanted to take one last picture of the car. Tom shook his head. He said memories were enough. The interior had a light smell of dust, but it felt welcoming. The steering wheel was large and solid. The dashboard looked like a piece of history. When she turned the key, the engine struggled for a moment but finally started with a low growl. Mira felt a wave of happiness. The car was old, but it was still alive. As she drove slowly out of the market, she glanced at the mirror. Tom was still standing there, his hands in his apron pockets, watching her leave. He did not wave. He simply stood still, his expression calm but distant, as if he was letting go of something connected to his heart. The drive home was slow because she did not want to push the engine. The wind carried the scent of dry grass and warm sunlight through the small cracks in the windows. The road hummed softly under the tires. Mira felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. She wondered why Tom sold the car for such a small amount. She wondered what history it carried. She parked the Mustang in her driveway and took a long breath. She felt like she had taken the first step into a story much bigger than she understood. She touched the hood gently and smiled. She felt grateful and lucky. But what she did not know was that hidden inside the car was a part of someone's past, something that waited patiently to be found, something that would lead her back to Tom with questions and emotions she could not imagine. And she had no idea that the man who sold her the car would soon return into her life with a surprise that would change her understanding of the entire story. The next morning, the sunlight filtered gently through Myra's window and woke her earlier than usual. She felt a quiet excitement, the kind that came after discovering something unexpected. The 1965 Mustang stood in her driveway like a reminder of the interesting turn her life had taken. She walked outside with a cup of warm tea in her hand and looked at the car again. Even under the soft light, the sky blue paint appeared tired, yet it still carried a charm that made her smile. Myra placed her tea on a small table near the porch and opened the driver's door. The old hinges creaked, but the sound felt comforting, as if the car was greeting her. The interior smelled of aged leather and time. She slid into the seat and rubbed her hand over the worn steering wheel. She felt a strange sense of calm, as though she was sitting inside someone's memories. She planned to clean the car thoroughly before thinking about repairs. She brought a bucket of water, brushes, and wipes, then started with the seats. As she lifted the old seat covers, a layer of dust floated into the air. She coughed lightly and laughed at herself. Restoring the Mustang was clearly going to take time, but she was ready for it. While cleaning the back area, her hand brushed against something hidden under the loose fabric. It felt like metal, small and box-shaped. Curious, she reached deeper into the narrow space and slowly pulled out an old metal box. It was scratched from age, and the latch was slightly bent, but it seemed important. Myra sat on the seat with the box on her lap. She paused for a moment, unsure if she should open it. It felt personal, almost private, but she reminded herself that Tom had sold her the car completely. Maybe he did not know the box was still inside. She opened the latch gently, and the lid lifted with a soft click. Inside the box were several items, all carefully placed. There were faded photographs, a small notebook, a folded letter, and a few small keepsakes like a keychain and a ribbon. Each item looked as if it had been kept with care for many years. Myra took out the photographs first. The colors were faded, but the images were clear enough to understand. The first photo showed a young woman standing beside the same Mustang. Her smile was bright and full of life. She had a simple style, with her hair tied and her hands resting on the car. In the next photo, the same woman sat inside the car holding a small child. The child was laughing, reaching toward the steering wheel. The woman's eyes were full of joy. Myra studied the photos with growing curiosity. She wondered who the woman was. A family member perhaps. A daughter maybe. She took another photo from the box. This one showed the woman and a man who looked younger than Tom but had similar features. It made Myra think that the woman might have been someone close to him. Next, she opened the notebook. The pages were filled with neat handwriting. The words were simple, like personal thoughts written during quiet moments. There were short entries about places visited, roads traveled, and small moments shared inside the Mustang. The car was mentioned often, almost as if it was part of their family. The notebook did not explain everything, but it revealed that the car had been deeply loved. One entry made Myra pause. It spoke about long drives during summer evenings, laughter echoing through the open windows, and a promise made to take care of the car no matter what. The words felt tender, almost like a message from the past. Finally, Myra unfolded the letter. The paper was thin, and the handwriting was a little shaky. It was addressed to someone with love and concern. The writer spoke about memories, apologies, and things left unsaid. There were no harsh words, only gentle ones. The letter seemed important, as if it carried the weight of an unfinished conversation. Myra felt an ache in her chest. She realized she was holding something valuable. These items were not simple things. They were pieces of someone's life. She knew she could not keep them. They belonged to Tom or to someone he cared about. She closed the box carefully and placed everything back inside. Her mind was full of questions. Why had Tom sold the Mustang so Why had he not checked the car carefully before giving it away? Was he aware that these personal items were still hidden inside? Myra stood up and walked around the car slowly. She touched the roof gently, almost with respect. She felt a deeper connection now, as if she had been invited to understand the heart of the car and the people who had once lived moments inside it. As the day grew warmer, Myra sat on the porch steps with the metal box beside her. She thought about returning to the market. She wanted to give the box back to Tom. It felt right. She had no idea how he would react, but she hoped it would bring him comfort. After finishing her tea, she placed the box in a small bag and got ready to leave. She locked her house and drove back toward the market. The road was peaceful, and the fields looked almost golden under the afternoon sun. As she approached the market area, her heart beat a little faster when she arrived. The market was still open, but Tom's small repair store looked different. The tools were there, but the cloth cover was rolled down. It seemed he had not opened the store that morning. Myra asked a vendor nearby if he knew where Tom had gone. The vendor said Tom left early and did not explain where he was headed. Myra waited patiently near the store. She sat on a low bench and watched people walk by. Hours passed slowly. She thought of the photographs again. The young woman's smile stayed in her mind. The notebook, the letter, the sound of Tom's quiet voice when he handed her the keys the day before. Everything connected into a story she wanted to understand. That as the sun began lowering in the sky, Tom finally appeared. He walked slowly toward his stall, carrying a small bag. His steps were steady but calm, as if he was deep in thought. When he saw Mira waiting, he raised his eyebrows slightly, surprised but not worried. But Mira stood up and greeted him. She told him about the box she found in the car. Tom listened without saying a word. When she handed him the bag, he took it gently and opened it. When his eyes saw the metal box, a quiet change came over him. His shoulders softened, and his expression grew tender. He held the box as if it was something priceless. He whispered that the woman in the photographs was his daughter. The child in the picture was her little son. They had made many memories with the Mustang, especially during long summer drives. The car had been a part of their happiest days. Mira's heart tightened. She understood the deeper reason behind Tom's gentle behavior the day before. The car carried memories that were still alive in his heart. Tom thanked her for bringing the box back. He said he had not opened the car's back seats in a long time, so he did not realize the box was still there. He looked at the photographs inside the box for a long moment, his expression soft but unreadable. Myra felt a sense of quiet respect. She did not want to intrude, so she stepped back and waited. After a while, Tom closed the box and looked at her again. He told her there was something he needed to share with her, something important, something that connected the car, the photographs, the memories, and his reason for selling the Mustang. Myra sensed that whatever he was about to reveal would change her understanding of everything, and she had no idea that the surprise waiting for her was far more meaningful than anything she had imagined. The evening light covered the market in warm shades of orange as Myra stood patiently in front of Tom's store. The small metal box rested in his hands, and the way he held it looked almost gentle enough to stop time. The air felt still. Myra sensed that something important was about to unfold, but she did not know how deeply it would change everything she thought. She understood. Tom closed the box slowly and looked up at her. His eyes were thoughtful, filled with memories that stretched far behind the moment. Mira stood quietly, giving him space to speak. She felt a strange mix of nervousness and concern, as if she had stepped into a story that held both joy and sadness. Tom took a slow breath and invited her to sit with him on a small wooden bench beside the stall. The market was beginning to close, and the distant sound of vendors packing their goods filled the air. Mira sat beside him, keeping her hands folded gently in her lap. She waited without pushing him, knowing he needed time to find the right words. After a long pause, Tom began speaking in a soft and steady voice. He said the woman in the photographs was his daughter, Lila. She had been full of energy, full of dreams, and full of warmth. The Mustang had been their special project. When she was younger, they spent many weekends restoring the car together. They sanded the metal, cleaned the engine, painted the body, and polished every detail. It was their way of bonding, their way of creating something with their hands and hearts. Tom's voice held a quiet pride as he spoke about Lila. He said she loved the Mustang more than anything she owned. She drove it everywhere and often told him that one day she would pass it on to her son. The photographs Myra found were from those days when life was simple, when Lila and her child would take long drives during summer evenings, singing songs and laughing at small things. Myra listened, feeling her chest tighten with emotion. She could see how deeply the memories touched him. She could sense that the Mustang was not just a car, it was a vessel carrying moments that had shaped his family. Then Tom paused again. His hands rested on the metal box, and he looked at it with a gentle sadness. He explained that Lila had moved to another city some years ago. Life had changed, responsibilities grew, and the Mustang stayed behind with him. She asked him to take care of it until she could return for it. Tom kept the promise for many years, but time moved slowly, and soon Lila had less contact with him, not because of anger or distance, but because life had pulled her into new routines and new directions. She called when she could, but the calls became shorter. The Mustang remained in his garage, waiting for someone who no longer had the freedom she once enjoyed. Tom said he kept the car polished at first, but over the years it collected dust. He grew older, and the work became harder. Still, he could not let the car go. It held his happiest memories with his daughter. It reminded him of days when she still needed him. Mira understood the weight of his words. The Mustang had been a bridge between Tom and his daughter, and letting it go must have felt like letting go of those moments. She wondered why he finally chose to sell it, especially for such a small amount. As if reading her thoughts, Tom continued. He said that a few months earlier Lila had sent him a long letter. She wrote that she wanted him to find someone who could give the Mustang a new life. She said she did not want it to stay hidden away in a garage. She wanted it to be driven, cared for, and loved again. In her letter, she told him that the memories they created would always stay with them, but the car deserved to make new ones with someone who would appreciate it. Tom placed his hand on the metal box, tapping it gently. He said the box had been Lila's way of keeping her memories close. She hid it under the seat years ago, and he never realized it was still there. When she wrote to him, she mentioned the box but did not tell him where it was. She wanted him to give it to the new owner of the Mustang. Someone who felt connected to the car, someone who would understand the story without needing to know every detail. Myra felt her breath catch. She had not expected this. She looked at Tom with wide eyes, almost unable to speak. She asked if he meant she was the person Lila had wished for. Tom nodded slowly. He said that when Myra approached the car at the market, he felt something calm in the way she spoke, something respectful. He said he trusted his instincts and believed she was meant to take care of the Mustang. The weight of his trust settled gently on Myra's heart. She looked down, unsure what to say. She felt honored but also emotional, aware of the depth of what she had been given. She told Tom she was grateful, more than she could express. Tom reached into his small bag and took out another envelope. He handed it to her. Inside were the original papers of the Mustang, the restoration notes written years ago, and a certificate from a local car show where the Mustang had once won a small award. But at the end of the envelope was another letter from Leela, written not long ago. The letter was simple. It said that if the car found the right person, she hoped they would continue the tradition of making memories with it. Myra read the letter silently. Every word felt warm and hopeful. She realized that the car had been waiting for a new chapter, and somehow, she had stepped into its path by chance, or maybe by something more meaningful. Tom watched her with a soft expression. When she finished reading, he said he did not want the $600 she had paid. He wanted her to keep it. He told her the sale was never about money. It was about finding someone worthy of the car. He believed she was that person. Myra tried to refuse at first, saying she wanted to honor the original price, but Tom gently insisted. He said her kindness in returning the box had already shown him everything he needed to know. He said the gift of the Mustang was not a loss for him. It was a continuation of his daughter's wish. The sky grew darker as they stood up together. Vendors were closing their stalls, and the market was emptying. Myra held the envelope and the box close to her chest. She thanked Tom again, promising she would take care of the Mustang and keep its story alive. Tom smiled, a gentle, peaceful smile. It was the kind of smile that came from letting go with understanding, not with sadness. He told her she was always welcome to visit and share how the car was doing. Myra walked back to her car with a full heart. The Mustang waited in her driveway, no longer just an old vehicle she had found. It was a legacy, a memory keeper, and a gift of trust. As she drove home, the sky blue car carried her smoothly along the road. The wind hummed softly against the windows. Myra felt a sense of purpose. She knew her life had changed in a quiet but powerful way. She knew she was part of a story bigger than herself. The Mustang had found a new beginning, and so had she.